Welcome to another episode of Untrapped. Today's guest is the kind of leader who proves that being a great CEO isn't just about working harder, but about working smarter. Jim Schleckser has spent over 30 years navigating global business landscapes, from leading a $1.6 billion telecom company to helping entrepreneurs dramatically scale their businesses. He's literally written the book, Great CEOs Are Lazy, which isn't about doing nothing, it's about strategic constraint removal. Jim's a former chemical engineer turned MBA with experience across 26 countries. He's not just another business consultant. He's a strategic architect who's helped companies grow from 2 million to 75 million and from 300 million to more than a billion. As the founder of the CEO Project, he's developed what he calls the 5 hats leadership model, a framework that's helping business leaders think differently about growth, talent, and strategic time management. He's also been named to the Forbes Coaches Council and has an incredible story. Please welcome Jim Schleckser to the show. All right, Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rory.
Yeah, glad to have you on. So for anybody who isn't super familiar with you or doesn't know what you do, how would you describe, what you do and what your company does for clients?
Yeah, so CEO Project, we help entrepreneurs and business owners, as well as professional executives, grow their businesses. And we do that by helping them focus on what we call the point of constraint, or the kink in the hose, which is the thing that's getting in your way as you try to scale and grow your business. So we're really good at figuring out where it is. We're really good at helping them figure out how to bust it open. And you add those two things together of opening up your point of constraint consistently, and you just get amazing results. So that's what we do. Help people get amazing results, but specifically around growth.
I laughed at myself a little bit because I saw your book was Great CEOs Are Lazy.
Yeah, right
And
over there.
yeah, and I think that's so perfect. I have that. So, my background in my business is largely paid traffic, paid media, Google ads, Facebook ads, things like that. And then more recently, AI agent. But the point is that I've run into this situation numerous times where it seems like, especially founders and business starters, they thrive on a little bit of the chaos and the busyness and things like that. And I've had to tell people numerous times, like, a good business is a little bit boring. Like, it should just run, it should operate, to your point, like, you can just focus on removing constraints. You're not
Mhm.
constantly putting out fires. So I mean, how did you land on that as kind of a thesis or an approach? I mean, how did you get there with your personal experience?
Yeah, so I didn't develop the theory. The theory of constraint was developed by an Israeli physicist by the name of Eli Goldratt, and he wrote a book called The Goal. And The Goal talked about a manufacturing plant and how by opening up the capacity in one machine, you made the whole plant able to produce more product, because that was the point of constraint. He never really well applied it to the concept of a business, but it is a general
Mhm.
systems theory. He can apply, like, it goes from a garden hose with a kink in it so the water isn't getting through.
Right.
That's a point of constraint, all the way up to your business. And so I, early in my life, ran into this theory, and I'm like, this is really smart. And I began to apply it in my, I know, right? Because I like it, I guess, right? But anyway, I applied it to my life. I applied it to the businesses I ran, and, it helped us get some pretty cool results. After I left the corporate world, I said, I benefited from CEO peer groups. And so I loved the business. And I thought this theory was great. So I said, let me merge the idea of peer groups and this theory of constraints. And that's the business we do. But I mean, it works in anything you can name, any system, like debottlenecking code, your sales force, your product offer. I mean, name it. It's just an amazing general purpose theory. And so it's just, and for me, your concept of being really busy, we get trained early in our life, like, busy is good. Like, busy is good. You're supposed to be
Right.
busy. So we
Yeah.
create busy when it doesn't need to exist sometimes, right? And
Yeah.
the problem is, your point about boring business is, if you're in that, I got to be busy. I got to, like, I'm a firefighter. I put out fires. That's what I do. Here's the problem. You know what firefighters do when there aren't any fires? They they go start them. Exactly right. So, like, there are people who are creating problems in their own business just so they can stay
Right.
busy, instead of just being boring and either play more golf or figure out how to grow it even faster. So yeah,
Yeah.
it is a real thing. You're totally right.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's become, the balance aspect of it has become a big focus of mine over the last couple of years, of spending more time out of work. But
Yeah.
man, the number of times I've seen somebody that sort of catches fire in their business and things take off and things are good and moving. And then the next thing they do is, well, what if we did something new or different?
Yeah.
It's like, just stop for a second.
Yeah.
Like, you have what so many people want and you're about to just completely, take your attention somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Growing every year and making money is boring. Like, why would I want to keep
Right.
doing that?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. I need to take a risk. I need to do something that won't work.
Yep.
So in your background, I mean, what's your are there any particular stories or client experience? Is there anything that stands out to you? Like what's a great story that you remember of applying this to a client's business and getting a great result?
Yeah, well, I can use a story of one of the businesses I ran, and that was we sold telecommunication hardware, software, and services into the big telephone company, Verizon, and those kinds of guys. And we had a big, big, big code base, and we were consistently getting enhancement requests from our clients while we're trying to build our new product. And the issue was that both enhancement and bug fix were running through the same development group that was trying to develop the new product. So guess what happened? The new product was always late, always behind
Right.
schedule. And we finally figured out the bottleneck is the interrupt that was being caused by the bug fix and enhancement requirements that our customer, and we wanted to do that for them because we were charging them maintenance, so we owed it to them. So we
Right.
split the engineering group into a bug fix maintenance team and a new product team. So they both had kind of clean lines of responsibility, and that debottlenecked the whole thing, and we were able to deliver product on time and satisfy the clients, for bug fix. There was a little like brain damage with the engineers, like the cool kids do new stuff and the not so smart kids do
Right.
bug
Yeah.
fix. So
Yeah.
there was a little problem around that we had to work through, but it worked like a charm. And it was just understanding the system and why was it getting all congested and plugged up and then fixing it, which we did. So that'd be a good example of somebody who, I'll give you another one real quick. We had a client who he had two businesses, mostly they were selling into the pharmaceutical industry. One was like travel planning, really high end, like sales meetings, exec planning meetings. And they were like gifted at this, like super high touch, really excellent. And the other side was a strategy business where they'd help people launch new products. And it turned out when you look at it, all the people were on the travel side, all the money was being made on the strategy side. And and the problem is the procurement people from the pharmaceutical companies were like, yeah, you need to be cheaper, 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 cheaper. And he already wasn't making any money. So
Right.
finally we pulled this apart and said, look, you need to get out of the travel business. And that was how he started the business on the travel side. So
Right.
he finally did it. He said, went to his client and said, yeah, we're not bidding on your next we're done. We're out of the business. And they're like, no, 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 you can't leave. You're like, why would I stay? You won't let me make any money. I can't do this business. It's not a charity. Exited it, focused on the strategy business. And that's turned into a $50 million super profitable business for him. So, took some giant guts to make that call to unplug the
Yeah.
system and focus on one thing, which, you'd argue, well, it's boring. I had two things. That was more interesting. But,
Right.
growing fast and making a lot of money ain't boring, So he has a great
Yeah.
lifestyle because he made a really hard decision.
Yeah, and I think that it's such an important thing you talked on, especially for a founder, anybody who's kind of built something on the back of a particular product. It's
Yeah.
it it's much easier said than done to just sunset that product. Like, well, we're done with that now.
You
But
killing your babies. It's horrible. Horrible.
right, right, and but yeah, it's man, like you said, it's so when you do that, just removing the constraint, right? It makes sense. It's like once that constraint is out of there, it's like man, so much growth is possible.
Yeah.
Um,
We have one client that said his phrase was focus equals growth. Yeah, he probably stole it from somebody, but it's
right,
really true. Like if you're only doing one thing and trying to be super great at it, all the people are trained on it, all the systems are lined up on it. The accounting, man, I mean, everything gets simpler when you're doing like one thing really, 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 really well and forget all the other distractions. So
yeah. Yeah, we in our world in the paid ads where we say complexity doesn't scale. And
I
I
love
think I
that.
think organizationally it's just as true as, it's the same thing if you have if you're selling shoes online and somebody has to go through 15 steps in order to buy, well, they're not gonna buy. Like
Yeah.
it's too complex, too many issues. You have a background, if I'm not mistaken, in chemical engineering. Was that right?
Yeah, I'm the 12 millionth worst chemical engineer on the planet, but yes, I did get did get a degree. I quickly rotated to business because I'm a way better businessman than I am chemical engineer. But yeah, that was my undergraduate.
Interesting. So how did you figure that out? How did you, obviously you went through the degree, but like at what point did you kind of realize, oh, I should definitely go this other route?
I went into chemical engineering for the reason that a lot of people go into chemical engineering. My father was one, and he loved it. And I'm like, well, then
Mhm.
I'm good at math and science, so I'll go do that, right? And
Right.
I was decent, but what's the joke? I made the top half of the class possible, you know? So, so I got out and I was doing engineering and I was okay at it, but I said, well, I'm gonna go get an MBA. And I started that and they needed somebody over in the marketing side, pretty technical product. I'm like, sure, I'll go
Hmm.
try that. And I was really good at that. I'm like, huh. And my history was when I was a kid, you get all the sales contests when you're in band or scouts or whatever. I would
Right.
win every sales contest, every one. Light bulbs, oranges, magazines, you name it, I won every one of them.
Yeah.
But when you're an engineer, they go, "Ooh, sales is icky," and
Right.
the dumb people do sales, and we're engineers, and so I had this vibe around it that was negative, and I got over that, and I said, "Well, dang, I'm good at it, and I can combine the technical and that, and do some because that's rare, right? It's like
Right.
an engineer who knows how to talk to people is a rare engineer, right? So
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
kind of had that combo. I'm like, let me maximize that combo because not everybody has it. So that's what got me into it. And then fairly quickly into running companies. I started running my first one at 29 and basically I've run companies my whole life. And that's what I've always wanted to do. So I'm in my happy place. Always have been.
That's
Pretty
great. Yeah.
almost always have been. Let me say it that way.
Yeah. 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 No, it's interesting, and I asked because I just recently was talking to somebody at their background was mathematics, right? But then
Mm.
now they were teaching emotional intelligence to
Yeah.
me, so it was just another story of kind of going the exact opposite direction, which I
Yeah,
find super
and the
fascinating.
answer is kids, it almost I mean, get a difficult degree, but then it kinda doesn't matter what relatively difficult degree you get, whatever it is. You wanna be a biologist, do that. You probably ain't gonna be doing it in 5 years or 10 years anyway, so
Yeah,
what's the
right.
diff?
Yeah, yeah. And I will say about the one thing I've always enjoyed about the any real sort of engineering path is it does help you understand how to think. System thinking. It helps you start to be able to break things apart. And that system could be an organization or that system could be a combustion engine. It doesn't really matter. But the how
Yeah.
to approach it and think about it makes a lot of sense.
And I wrote an article that people say, "Oh, I'm strategic," but there's a marker for people who truly are strategic, which is they are systems thinkers. You find a
Mm,
good systems thinker, you found a good strategist because to your point, they look at the whole kind of backdrop and go, okay, if I pull this lever, what happens over here? And if I pull
right.
this string, those are your strategy people. The article was basically, they may not be your VPs. They may be somebody else in your organization who's just really good at seeing the landscape and understanding how things
Right.
work together. And I mean, I'm patting myself on the back, but I think engineers are sometimes okay at this, so not
Right.
all of them, but many of them. So
Yeah. So in your opinion, having done this, what is it that keeps us focus on the busyness. Why are we out starting fires where there doesn't need to be a fire? Like, what is it that drives that human behavior? Because it's not unique or special, that's for sure.
I think it's Judeo-Christian guilt. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, we are all kind of guilty, at some level with our religion, kind of puts that into us early days. And so
Right.
we feel like if we're not working and being productive, which is kind of the puritanical, foundation of America that, you work hard. When I'm not working, I'm like, I'm being lazy and lazy's bad. And I need to be busy because busy's good and lazy's bad. And that's why the book title kind of stops people. They go, whoa, 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 CEOs aren't lazy. Well, no,
Right.
they're strategic about how they deploy their time is really what I talk about in the book. So I think it's this guilt that we come to the table with about I've got to be busy all the time. And if I'm not busy, then I'm not productive and I'm not contributing to society. But I think we've got to remember as CEOs that our work is mental. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, this sounds, I could be on a golf course and doing work. I could be
Right.
riding my bike and doing work. I could be, put in my miles to get ready for a marathon. In fact, I'll tell you a story. When I was running marathons, I've stopped running them now, but I was running marathons and, I'd go out for my 10, 15-mile run. I'd come back with so many ideas. People,
Right.
people hated it when I was running marathons. They're like, stop running for God's sake, right? You're thinking too much. But it was really, so was that work? Like I was running, but I was working at the same time. So
Yeah.
I think it's the guilt and understanding what work is and what it isn't. So I think younger generations are getting their heads wrapped around this a little better than the older generations, my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. I would agree. I mean, I I think there's a shift and everything's on a spectrum, right? Because there's definitely people who want to go the full no work route. Like I just want to be paid to exist, I guess. So there's that side of it as well. But I do agree. I mean, I think much more of the conversation lately is starting to develop more around, okay, but do we need to work 60-hour weeks or 80-hour week? Like, is this really what's best for me?
Yeah.
Especially if you think through the lens of your deathbed. It's like, as I'm looking back, like, what are the things that really matter to me? Is it going to be making another $10 million or having more time with my kids? So
I
yeah.
tell you, I had an experience early in my life. I was on a charitable organization and we supported this baseball league. And I
Mhm.
went to their award dinner where they'd honor like their Hall of Fame coaches and stuff. And these guys have been coaching baseball for like high school level baseball and high level baseball for like 30 years. They get up there. Every single one of them was in tears talking about how they wish they'd spent more time with their family.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I do not want to be that guy. It's,
Right.
that I get up when they honor me and go, I wish I spent more time with my family. I'm like,
Right.
I don't want to be that guy. So it affected me to sort of maintain some balance,
Yeah.
even though I did interesting stuff to try to keep a relatively decent balance of family. Cause I'm like, boy, great example of what I don't want to do, you know?
Yeah. 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 And there's no solving that regret. Holy cow.
It's
You
tough.
get
It
one
was
feeling at
tough
it.
to watch, Rory. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it was tough to watch.
Yeah. I love your perspective, and I'm going to be thinking about this for a while. I had not thought about the religious influence on. I've always thought of it as culturally, we've just sort of adopted this culture of progress is king. Like more
Yeah.
is better. If I can have a million, then 10 million is going to be even better. Than and so we kind of have this drive that's great. We innovate and we produce and we do all these good things, but like we're talking about, we do lose our sense of balance. But I guess I've never gone deep enough to think about where does that desire for progress come from?
Yeah.
Because
Well, and be busy is really where it's going. Because I mean, I think the
right,
progress is good. Like, get better every day. I love that.
right, yeah,
But sometimes you put up a zero. Like, I remember when I started running my own company, there were times I did 4 really good hours of work, and I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna stop working." And I felt so damn guilty.
right,
It was horrible. And I finally said, "You know what? If I did the right thing for 4 hours and really moved the ball forward, I did a good day's work. I'm done."
yeah.
I got myself over it. But it's not easy. It's not easy.
It's not. Yeah, that programming runs deep.
Mm.
I love that. So, how would you describe your role at the CEO project now? I mean, what does a day to day look like for you and how you
Yeah.
guys operate?
Like a lot of it's basically a professional services firm, a consulting firm, right? We
Right.
deploy through one-on-one work and peer groups. So, top level people in professional services firms are bring on good people. So I regularly talk to new potential advisors and coaches to see if they want to join our program. And it has reasons why they might want to, and some it's not perfect for everybody, but we figure that out. I'll help train and develop them to get them ready to go do the work because there's some specialty methodology that we develop that we have to teach them. And then I spend a fair amount of time talking to potential clients. So making rain for other people. So I don't do the work. I make the rain and hand it to other people, which is classic at that level. Again, back to the sales skills. And then a
Yeah.
spare amount of time on marketing, digital marketing, content marketing. I spent a fair amount of time in that space. So, and then, to some, they don't need it as much because they're pretty sophisticated coaches, but just spending time with the coaches, making sure they're on point, making sure they're good to go. And when somebody has a really hard problem that they can't solve for the client, sometimes they'll bring me in if they think I can be helpful. So, which is cool, okay, really hard. I like hard problems, so that's fun for me. But so yeah, those things: client acquisition, marketing, bringing on great people, coaching the people I've got, and then I probably underspend time on improving the systems and processes to help the business scale. So
Hmm.
I do, but I've got other people that are better at that, and so
Right.
I kind of defer to them and let them do it.
Gotcha. It's interesting. So, at the level you're at now, I mean, what's on your radar is your, number one constraint? I mean, what is the current bottleneck if there is one?
Yeah, client acquisition has been and probably always will be. I can always find enough coaches because there are advisors out there. It's a pretty
Right.
rich field. We do hire former CEOs as advisors.
Oh, very cool.
So not and part of that is because I fundamentally disagree with the model that ICF, International Coaching Foundation. So people come out, I'm a certified coach, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, sorry to hear that because the way that model is a therapy model in my book, which
Yeah.
is to say, ask questions until the client comes up with the answer, right? And because we have former CEOs who've all run significant companies, we go, look, I'm going to listen and understand, and then I'm going to give you my opinion and my advice, the best I know how to give you. I'm not
Right.
gonna. I remember one time I asked the client, I go, "Hey, David, I think I know what's going on. I could either ask you questions until you figure it out, or I could just tell you." And he's like, "Oh, for God's sake, just tell me." So that was the end of that. I'm like, I'm not going to play that game with people. And CEOs
Right.
are not tolerant of it. I know people that they played that game with me, trying to guide me with questioning. And I'm like, oh, just stop. I know you think you
Right.
know the answer. Just tell me what you think and I'll assess it. And, we'll go from there.
Yeah.
So anyway, former CEOs. So I don't know where I got down this rat hole, but that is a big difference of the kind of people that we bring on board, but they're highly available. The problem is accessing CEOs that have enough humility to be good in a peer group, that know they don't have all the answers. And what we find is we get really good when their business gets complex. So we don't do smaller companies. We only do over $50 million of revenue. And what happens, particularly for a CEO that's been around a little bit, years, not tons of years, but years, is they go, the business is now complex enough that it's not a one person game anymore. So I need people around me who can help me grow this business because it's too damn complex for me to just figure it all out on my own. And that's where this peer group and the advisor comes in, is you now have a mastermind group to help you on that journey, all running similarly sized companies. So they're like, oh, you're dealing with geographic expansion. Hey, we did that 5 years ago. Let me give you all the tricks and techniques that I used to, and here are the 10 things I screwed up that you don't want to do, right?
Right.
And that's like super helpful. Like you just got accelerated by months and months on your learning because somebody else had done it before who's happy to share. So that's what we look for. There are a lot of people that coach smaller companies. We're just not as valuable to them as other people
Right.
might be. So we focus upward.
Gotcha. And so going back to what you had mentioned about the constraint being client acquisition, is it a problem of finding those people? I mean, where do you feel like that constraint, or is it just about not being visible enough in the marketplace?
Yes, both, right? If I had a perfect satellite that could see the entire universe of potentials at the same, or they could see me at the same time, I don't have full coverage like that. So clearly there's a
Right.
coverage issue that's worth talking about. Limited by how much I can spend, right? I mean, I only have X
Mhm.
dollars to deploy into a variety of techniques. We try to
Sure.
be efficient and measure them. And that's what I love about digital marketing as an engineer. I'm like, hey, I can measure it, I can improve it, I can do
Right.
A/B testing, I can do all kinds of cool stuff that I love and track it all the way because we have a pretty sophisticated CRM. I can track it all the way to client yield, revenue yield, lifetime value of client based on spend. So we're pretty good about that, but more money would get me further. The other
Right.
is they may not even know they need it. So there's an education drip, a nurturing process to help people understand this might be a fit for them. Because one of the most important conversations I had on marketing is I talked to a friend of mine, a guy named David Appel. He ran OxyClean. His family owned OxyClean before they sold it.
Mhm.
Amazing marketer. And I was talking to him about early days of digital marketing, and we were very much outbound in the early days. And he goes, Jim, why would you want to talk to somebody who doesn't want to talk to you? Like, that's a damn good question, David. I don't know why I'd want to do that. So we changed our entire marketing to acquire, nurture, and look for hand raisers. So we have a cadre of people that we nurture through a variety of techniques, and we look for hands to go up, and then we talk to them. But what that did is it changed our close ratio by a factor of 5 by
Oh
doing
wow.
that. But it decreased the number of conversations we had by a factor of,
Right.
3 probably or so.
Yeah.
So we have a lot less conversations, but our yield is way higher. Net is positive, but the whole idea of no outbound was really like scary, but it took a few years, but it works for us at least.
Yeah.
Because we were calling CEOs and having conversations and then it didn't go anywhere. And like, well, I just wasted energy and time and so did they. And we just don't do that anymore.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm curious, how has AI affected you? How are you using it, not using it? How's it affected your clients?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we're all the way there. We spend a lot of time talking about AI because our clients are super worried about it. And so I've done a lot of people on my podcast to talk about AI. So we're trying to get smart. I've used
Yeah.
it in a variety of techniques for writing and analytical presentation development, so more personal productivity tools. We've not well deployed it into the business, yet there's an argument that you could have custom AI executive coach, right? So you could take
Mhm.
all our skills, knowledge, and train on, for example, my hundreds of articles and videos and all that stuff, you'd have a shot at actually having a pretty decent AI coach on your hands for CEOs. So that may be a place this could go. It's scary when you sell your time to say,
Right.
I could embody this in a bot of some sort. So haven't gone there, but I think that's going to happen, and at least for some level of problems, that'll be useful. I think the issue is that it's a very relational business.
Yeah.
High trust, high relationship. We do face to face. And so I'm not sure if it's vulnerable to AI or not. I think it could be augmented by AI for sure, but I'm
Right.
not sure how yet. So my answer is, I know it's an issue. We're trying to engage, haven't fully figured it out, but I don't think it fully displaces us. I think it augments us.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I don't think I think as AI continues to be more prominent, I think the things that are going to stand out are the personal connections. I don't think those things can ever be replaced by robots. I think
Right.
if anything, all it would do is it would basically allow you to give people more access to you without giving away more of your time. Right. So
Yep.
if you have somebody you're meeting weekly, well, now 24/7, if they need a quick advice, they can jump into AI Jim and get an answer. And then
Yeah.
when they meet you next week, they can say, "Hey, this is what your robot told me. Does this sound good?" And you're like, "Yeah, it's great."
Yeah.
So
Man, I killed it while I was sleeping. Great.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I think even if the AI was exactly right, I think people still want the human coach.
Well, and AI hallucinates and it makes
It
mistakes.
does.
And so
Right.
you do need, for high stakes decision making, you still need human oversight, at least now, maybe not in 20 years, but today you do. So yeah,
Right.
I completely agree. Even for like accounting processes, there's still some human oversight, even though it should or could be fully
Right.
automated. Humans still put eyeballs on before the checks go out, for example.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody listening to this, just to give you I still can't get AI to give me accurate recipes 100% of the time. Like the most basic thing, it's like I'm burning food if I do exactly what AI tells me. Like there
That's
was
fun.
one of them, it forgot to give me water. It forgot to include water in the recipe. And it's just
Wow.
like, so anyway, yeah, if you're talking about geographic expansion of a multi-million dollar company, like definitely not
It's too
just going to go
and
with whatever. Yeah.
and even the prompt. I don't know how you even write the prompt. I'll give you a quick example on hallucination. I was working on some schoolwork, and I said, "Hey, write the first just I wanted to see what it could do." ChatGPT earlier version, but said write the first chapter of a doctoral dissertation on this topic with this research. Give me APA formatting and proper citations and blah 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 blah. And it wrote simple but plausible first chapter, short. But in there, and I had read at this point 400 or 500 articles in the space and 40 or 50 books, and I mean, I'd just gone deep on it. It had two citations by, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. I don't remember the name of the guys, but perfect articles. Like, could not have been more bullseyed for the topic I was talking about. And I'm like, how the heck did I miss these articles? Like, am I dumb? I'm like, I got to go find them. So I went searching to find those articles by those authors, made them up.
Yeah.
They didn't exist. It
Right.
hallucinated them and said, "Well, there should be an article by these guys on this topic," but there wasn't. So yeah,
Right.
you got to be careful. You got to be really careful.
You do, yeah. I have a client in the longevity space, and they sell health products, and it has made up scientific studies to support an argument. So, yeah, I mean, the real danger at this point is, you mentioned using it for your personal productivity. It's like you have a lot of people doing that. They're like, "Hey, tell me more about this health product," and then they think it's science based, but it's
Oof,
not. So, yeah, all that to
oof,
say,
that's
you really got to
scary.
question what AI gives you. It is, yeah. Especially with some of the stuff we're talking about, right? If somebody's like, well, I could hire somebody like Jim, or let me just talk with ChatGPT to get my answers. And they're like, oh, these answers are great. It's like, well, but they don't know what they don't know
Right.
enough to point out what's wrong with it. And that's why having good coaches in your corner is just always a good idea.
Well, and because there's a value in experience, right? And you
Right.
can train a learning model on all kinds of stuff, but they haven't lived the life that you have or I have,
Right.
and all the nuance that's in there, and it could never pick that up. And so that can mean things in certain situations. So
Yeah. So what about on the client side? I mean, how the businesses you're working with, I mean, are you finding people are largely, adopting AI wholesale and getting on board, or people kind of keeping an arm's length? I mean, what's the attitude out there?
I would say is still a technology looking for a problem to solve, and people are trying to figure out what solve problems it solves really, really well. So we got a couple clients that have gone in hard. I'll give you example one. He helps people with Amazon sales. So they've got their products on Amazon. They're trying to figure out how to optimize. He has got a pretty sophisticated AI capability to analyze their positioning and the moves they should make and how they should, and he can give them some pretty interesting recommendations. Still human oversight, but the masses of data you got to take in to figure out what's going on, he uses AI for that. I've got another that uses it for product configuration. So these are things you used to have to build all these hierarchical structures to figure out what A goes with B, which goes to C. But if it's got options G, you can't do that. Like all that stuff.
Right.
AI figures that stuff out great. I got a client that's using it for some rework of diagrams and documents and stuff, which is pretty solid. Still have to have an engineer look at it, but at least you get a
Right.
good first crack at it, right? And
Yeah.
another that uses it just generically. They've loaded it's a enterprise system, so it's not public, but they've loaded all of their internal data and decisions and spreadsheets and everything, so you can ask it questions about the business and it'll come up with viable answers based on the data from that business. I haven't heard of any like breakthrough from that, but it seems like a pretty interesting way to get the information you need when you need it. So, a couple of
Yeah.
examples, but none of those are like game changer, right? They're
Right.
interesting, but
Right.
not game changer yet. So we're still, and I think that's where the innovation is going to happen on AI. It's actually not on the learning models, the large language models anymore. Although I think there's an energy efficiency conversation in there. It's not on the infrastructure. We kind of got that figured out. Although we're throwing money and power at it, it's up at the application layer.
Yep.
So take AI and apply it to a particular problem,
Mhm.
mortgage underwriting, for example, or insurance claim processing, or logistics, freight bill alignment, to like all that kind of stuff. AI will be great at that, but you need to really train it very, very specifically. And I think that's where all the fun stuff is going to happen, is up at the application layer for very particular problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the main things that we do for clients now is helping people install these agents and these automations, right? So for example, like if you got an engineer who's like, I'm constantly getting these white papers that I have to stay up to date on, just as a crude example. It's very easy to set up an AI application that you can just forward those white papers to, and it gives them a digest. So now a
Nice.
50-page white paper is kind of a one pager that they can go through. Content creation is another example, right? If you're already making content for YouTube, well, there's no reason that content can't also be a blog post, can't also be on LinkedIn, can't also be on X, but you don't have to do all that. That could be an application that just takes that script and then spits out the other end some content. And so, yeah, I agree. I
Are,
think that's where.
are people
Sorry,
using it to create the content in the first place? I mean, repost makes all kinds of sense. What about creation?
there are, and that's on a spectrum, kind of like we talked about. There are people who I would say are going to ChatGPT and doing it the wrong way, where they're like, give me a LinkedIn post. And then there are people who have like these agents that we talk about where you can upload, we could download 3 hours of your content and say, give me a voice document so I know exactly how Jim talks. And then when you create content, create it in that voice or reference these stories. And so there's some things you can do there that allow you to create the content. And there's some even cooler things you could do where you can record video of yourself and then use that to make
Yeah.
new video, right? So
Yeah, I've seen the Avatar stuff. It's a little scary. It's still just a teeny bit clunky yet in my book,
yeah,
but it's
some
getting
of
there.
it
It's
you
getting there.
yeah, you definitely have to be conscious of your gestures. So like if you're purposely recording to make your own avatar, you do have to be a little more muted and a little more neutral so that you're not, looking excited in the middle of a more serious tone in your video, right? So
Yeah.
so yeah, there's room to go there, but there is, to the conversation of removing constraints. In the past, if you wanted to be on all the channels and be everywhere, it was extremely labor intensive. Somebody had to do a lot of work, and we're getting close to where that's not as much of a constraint as it was before, right? It's
Me.
easier to do, and that apply that to anything, right?
Yep. Yep. Although funny, I've got this sort of model of AI generated content talking to AI search engines. I'm like, the robots are talking to each other now, right?
Right.
So there's a little bit of that going on.
Yeah, and I agree. Going back to people sort of using it the wrong way, I think that's one of the advantages we'll have going into the future is that original content will be set a much smaller percentage of the internet. That'll be so much easier to stand out as long as
Yeah.
you are still keeping your authentic voice and content and things like that. So
Yeah. I'm kind
yeah,
of counting on that. So, because
right.
I do a lot of content creation and I try to be a little different in how I present it to make
Yeah.
people think twice. So
Yeah, that's great. So with the CEO project, so what are you focused on now? I mean, obviously we're getting ready to start 2026. So as the leader, what are you looking at to optimize? Is it just growth? Is it revenue? I mean, how do you know if 2026 is a win or not?
yeah, well, again, it's down to client acquisition. So we regularly do experimentation around our client acquisition methodologies. So we're
Mhm.
adding a couple of new things next year that I'm excited about. The biggest thing we're adding is trying to analyze intent and contacting people with intent based on search profiles. So that
Mhm.
is new for us. So that may be a little more outbound, but if they are actively searching for, CEO peer groups, I don't know, maybe on
Right.
that particular one, but then they're interested in the topic. And if they've got the right title and the right size company and it makes some sense to reach out to them because it's kind of moment of need conversation. And so that
Yeah.
has real potential for us. I'm excited about that experiment to see how it works out. And, if it added, double the number of clients I added last year, that would be a home run ball for me. So that's sort of
Yeah.
my single biggest thing I'm excited about for next year. There are other things we're doing, but that's the biggie for me.
Very cool. Very cool. And what does that look like for you? Is that we don't have to go into the technical infrastructure, but is that like a cold email approach, or are you having people cold call based on
Um,
their intent? And how are you actually
yeah.
reaching out to
So
people?
first, you got to find intent using a variety of technologies they're available. We didn't make them up.
Right. Yeah.
And then you combine that with unfortunately cold outreach, very tight cold outreach. But given that they've been looking,
Right.
you can land that on the bullseye, right? With a very specific headline and a very tight set paragraph or two with a call to action, and then probably followed up with some phone appointment setting as well. Because particularly
Yeah.
a lot of these CEOs are a little bit older and they probably respond better to phone, most because nobody calls anymore.
Right.
And we do have text capability, but you know, I don't know how hard we want to hit that one because that can be a little abusive. We all get these spam
Right.
texts, and I'm a little like, I had one place you guys hadn't found me, and now you found me. So
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
not sure how hard. Maybe for follow up, but not for initial pitch.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think there's an element of that feels a little intrusive
Yeah,
for me on the customer end. And
yeah,
I mean, and I guess maybe there's an argument that if it was just a hyper relevant, caught me at the right time
mm,
text, it would be super welcome. But I get these texts all the time about remote job
yeah,
opportunities and insurance programs. Just like,
yeah.
just
I
stop.
could be a mystery shopper for Target. Like,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
no, thanks, but no,
Not, yeah. Not on your list of goals for 2026.
not
That's
even
funny.
close. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the worst. So yeah, hopefully the technology will get to where we can block some of the scammers and all that. But I agree. Yeah, so that's cool. That makes a lot of sense. Interesting. So this has been a great conversation, Jim. I really appreciate you coming on. Before we jump, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you if they want to connect or reach out? Where's the best place to go?
Problem. Thanks, Rory. Obviously, the website, which is theceoproject.com. There's also a podcast by that name, the CEO Project Podcast. And if you want to get me, I'm all over LinkedIn, Jim Schleckser. I think I'm the only Jim Schleckser on LinkedIn, so be easy to find.
That's awesome, Jim. Well, I really appreciate your time coming on. It's a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rory. Appreciate it.